Good morning. Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Today is Tuesday, October 29th, 2024. And I know red is my color, but we really got it popping today. Red light, red shirt, everything is just looking red. It's not the camera. It's just all the red. We are in the Java Cafe this morning, as I always do when I'm off site and reset up. Please let me know if you can hear me, making sure we're good, because we are continuing to celebrate. And I believe I got it right this time. It is Women Small Owned Business Month. And there is a young woman that I'm getting ready to bring. All right, so there's some of the tech stuff that happens, as it often does when we shift places. So we're just going to stay right here. I think we're good. I'm going to go ahead and bring our guest in. She is a young woman who started a business some years ago. We're going to hear some of her story. She has a partner who unfortunately is not able to be with us today, and we have her in our thoughts as she's handling a family matter. But I'm getting ready to bring Sandy Lish into the Java Cafe. I'm so excited about this. We're kind of cool. And so we're going to have some fun in our discussion this morning. So I'm going to bring Sandy in. And Sandy, of all times for the system not to be acting right, when I'm bringing in a comms queen and guru this morning, but I think we got it worked out. You can hear me? We're good?
I can hear you, and you called me a young woman, so like all's forgiven.
All right, Sandy.
Keep going.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I am doing just about as well as I can be doing, given everyone's anxiety for what's coming up in the next week around our country. But I'm good. I'm good, and I'm really happy to be with you. It's nice to be with you virtually, and I always love it when we get to spend time together. So.
Absolutely. And so, Sandy, I just want to give folks a little idea of what you do. I was joking before we got started and said, I wish I could find the video from the Embrace Boston opening, because you and your team, as soon as I said, Sandy, she said, no, that was the team, but the Capsule Group handled the logistics behind that great event. And you're also, you handle public relations for Embrace Boston as well. But Sandy is someone, her and her partner, Wendy, they do a lot of communications as far as in writing and advising public relations, but they also do front-facing work in executing productions and things like that. And so, Sandy, want to give you a chance to say good morning to everyone, and really be honest. When I was talking to Anissa about booking more women, you were one of the first people that came to mind, because we've talked, know a little bit about your journey, and we're going to hear more in a few minutes. But it was just a thing for me. Let's ask Sandy to come. I got a few more to bring in as well, because we should celebrate women-owned businesses every month, like we do the other affinity months. But say good morning to the folks, and then we'll sort of get into your story of what led you into this great space of communications.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we should celebrate women-owned businesses every month, because we're here every month. We're working every month. But I'm really happy to be with everyone. I'm really happy to spend time with Jimmy. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to hearing what you're going to throw at me and answering any questions that you have.
All right. One of the first questions I want to ask you is, if you were to use one word to describe how the field of what it's like to be a woman-owned business, just generally, what is, through your experience, what is one word that you would use to describe it? And then also give us a little bit of context as to why.
Multitasking. I said multitasking, right? I mean, not just because of what we do, and the nature of my work involves a lot of multitasking and, connecting dots, connecting clients, thinking about how to get people's messages out there. But when you're a woman or a man or anyone, you have also your life to live at the same time. And I think particularly, women are traditionally caregivers for their young people in their family or their elders or what have you. And so what I always tell women, in particular young women, when they're thinking about starting a business is, yes, you're thinking about the business right now and you're thinking about where you are in this stage in your life, but your whole life's going to happen and and unravel or unfold or ups and downs while you're running this business. And so you've got to learn how to handle all those things too.
It's interesting because I had Naisha D, who runs Pure Spark, which is a mental health space, and Naisha. And one of the things that she talked about coming out of the finance world is the mental health impact. Nicole Obi from BECMA mentioned that as well. And so thank you for affirming that also. Sandy, if you don't mind, can we tap in to your journey? What led to you like getting in this great calm space? Like, you guys are all over the world. You advise many people and handle a lot of notable people. You also look out for little guys and whatnot. And so can you tell us just like a little bit of your journey, where you're from? And just because I think it's important, Naisha and Nicole did this as well. They told a little bit of their story, but in that, I think women, and not only women, but men, can identify with maybe the life journey and then see the success and, kind of correlate some success for their lives as well. So like, with all due, who's Sandy?
Yeah, well, a complicated puzzle. But no, in reality, Jimmy, so I grew up, I'm sitting here right now talking to you from our office, which is in the Navy Yard in Charlestown. I grew up not very far from here in Brookline. And I think people make assumptions when you think like, okay, well, there's this person that grew up in Brookline, probably, had like a sweet ride, all along. But I grew up mostly raised by a single mom. And I'm a first generation college student. My family had a lot of challenges. And so when I was in high school, I kind of took an alternate path than my mom may have envisioned for me. And I stopped kind of being a straight A student. And I just sort of started hanging out and sleeping late. And I always had a job. I always had a job since I've been 14 years old. I always liked to work and I always liked to make money, but I kind of went astray academically. And so the long story short is that I did not end up graduating from high school. And I thought I would come back a fifth year and force myself to make up for what I had lost, sort of self-punishment. Like, all right, I did this to myself. So now I'm going to come back and make myself do this fifth year. And I went back. And on the first day, I remember being in the cafeteria. All my like real friends were gone, right? They'd graduated. I knew other people. And it was the first time that I sort of stopped feeling like, I'm cool. This doesn't, like whatever. It's just me. And started to feel really ashamed and sad and scared. And I called my mom from a payphone and I was crying. And I was like, I can't do this. And she came and she picked me up. And I ended up not going back to school and getting my GED instead and continuing to work. And then given what I just shared about my poor academic track record, I didn't stand a very good chance of getting into college. And so I applied to whatever places the guidance counselor told me to apply. I can't tell you what they were. I don't even remember. I just did what I was told. And I got into nowhere, which probably was the right call for those schools, given what they had to evaluate. But I got waitlisted at UMass Amherst. And so I was working at a drugstore. And I was thinking like, yeah, I could be a front store manager and I kind of like it here and that's cool. And then I got a letter in the mail that I had been moved off the wait list from UMass Amherst. So I went there. I'd never seen it. I had no money to go. I went to a bank and took out loans and just figured out what to do. And then you would think like all would be well, but then I went and I almost flunked out the first semester because I really wasn't prepared to be a college student. I didn't have the discipline and I like to have fun a little too much. And so it took me a little while to like regulate. And I did graduate in 4 years. Again, I always had a job. I always worked really hard. But I tell that to people now. I used to hide it because I used to feel really ashamed that like I didn't live up to my potential at a time in my life when I suppose I could have. And now with age and wisdom, I realize I couldn't have because there were really serious things happening in my family. There were financial challenges. There was mental illness. My mother was working 3 jobs at a time. We were renting out rooms in our home to be able to afford to stay in our home. And My brother was seriously mentally ill, and I had a lot of things, right? So it's not something to be ashamed of. It's actually the fact that I got through all that. I realized it was something to be proud of. And so I started telling that story. And in fact, last spring, the Boston Globe did a piece. It was my suggestion to a reporter, like, you should write about people who are okay professionally now, but maybe didn't do well academically, so people can know that you don't have to be defined by what you did early in life. So that's the story that I tell now.
Sandy, it's so amazing. And I said this to Pam yesterday and others, and, we're not, BFFs and talk every day, but we've been in community a few years. We've had lunch and talked and worked on some things. But it's always so amazing to me when folks I have rapport and relationships with for a little bit, and then they come onto the platform and I'm sitting here like, so much of what you just shared resonates with me on a few levels. One of the first things is, I'll be very honest, sometimes when I hear people talk about the traditional college path, may not be it may not fit everyone. Yours was not traditional. And I like what you said to the Globe reporter about doing the comparing, contrasting of those that you just presume went to a four-year college, Ivy League school, presumption, you majored in marketing, journalism, and communications. You know what I mean? And then we just get to take sort of a look back at folks like yourself. And one of the other things that stands out in looking back is there are many people that are watching and going to watch this and going to go, wait a minute, I've seen her, but I didn't, I got my GED. I've been thinking about doing this. I didn't make it through college. This is why stories like this are so important. Why now did you talked about, it's nothing to be ashamed of. Why now is it important for you to be so transparent? And you said, especially with young women, why is it important now for you? And I'm not saying that you wasn't before, but
I wasn't.
Okay, so let's go. Yeah. Why now? What did it for you to walk in your truth and be public about it?
There's one pragmatic reason, which is that when my son, now my kids are almost 25 and 22.
Okay.
When my kids were younger, I wanted them to do well. My husband and I wanted them to succeed academically. Just because I didn't and it turned out okay doesn't mean that's an easy route, right? Everyone wants your children to do better than you, right? Yeah. So I didn't want them to know that I had done that because I didn't want them until they were mature enough to really understand what that meant, to be able to throw it back in my face when I was making them study and go, well, you didn't, or you, and you know what? It was the right decision because my daughter, when I did tell her, said like, oh yeah, I definitely would have thrown it back at you. So, so I just waited. There's an amazing woman business leader in this city that has a really similar story to mine. And when I was pulling people together for the Globe piece, I asked her if she'd be in it, and she said, I can't. She said, I can't yet. I said, because you're kids? And she said, yeah. And I said, I totally get it. Because you just, you want them to be able to process and understand that it's a lesson, and it's, it's not something to, like, oh, well, then no big deal. I can do whatever I want. It'll turn out okay later. Because it doesn't always turn out okay. But folks, were in that Globe article, Saskia Epstein from PNC Bank, Shaguna Duwu was in it, Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein. Oh my God. No, dear God. I have someone on the brain right now, given the election, not Jeffrey Epstein. Jesus. Jeff Sanchez. I'm sorry forever that I called you Jeffrey Epstein. And some other folks, and Natanya Craig Kendo from Boston Women's Fund was in it. Like, it was like great folks that that have probably been on this. Dominique Lee from Planned Parenthood, like great leaders, and everyone probably thinks that they, always, had their nose to the grindstone and did really well, but everyone has a different journey. So I think it's important to talk about your journey, because otherwise, how else can people learn? And authenticity.
And authenticity, and then also see examples, again, I keep going back. I've had a few women on this month to highlight, women's small Sandy, what is it?
Women-owned small businesses.
Women-owned small businesses. Okay, got it. And there's been this resounding theme of not taking a traditional path, being authentic, and then also the mental health piece. And so you've mentioned your journey a couple of times. Thank you for being transparent and thank you for being real, because I know this is going to resonate with a lot of folks. The journey to communications and Castle, like, so I'm going to sit back and get comfortable because I know there's going to be parts in here that's just going to blow me away. But how did you get to you and Wendy partnering and forming this just ridiculous comms firm?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, so once upon a time, 28 years ago, Wendy was my client. Yeah, we've been in business 28 years. So first, let me just say, Wendy and I are 50-50 everything partners in this business. And we have an amazing partnership, and partnership is really at the heart of, I think, why we've been here for so long and why we've been able to do and attract the people and the clients and whatever we've been able to achieve. So, and I'm sad that she couldn't join us today because we would have had a lot more fun. But at any rate, she was my client, and I was at a big ad agency, and I had changed jobs a lot. So like, just because when I graduated from school didn't mean I was like settled down. I still was like itchy, trying to figure out my thing. I knew that I liked PR. I learned about what PR was when I was in college. I never knew what it was. Didn't know that it was a career or thing that existed. And then I got an internship, and then I knew that was what I wanted to do. And I always had an inkling that I would like to work in an agency, but it just took me a really long time to get an opportunity to work in one because I didn't have any connections, and I didn't, I just would send my resume and pray for interviews, right? So finally I got a job in an agency after having worked on the client side, and I had changed jobs like 4 or 5 times before that. So like,
you said you was always
in jobs for a long time. I would go and I would get bored, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to start looking again. Because I just get bored and I get itchy. So that's why agency is good for me, because you get to have a lot of variety. So Wendy was my client, and the agency I was in was making some pretty significant changes to how they were going to operate. I knew that it would be time to have a little more control over my destiny. And so Wendy and I and a guy that was my boss started Castle together. So everyone thinks Wendy and I started just us from day one, but we had another partner. He was 20 years older than us and had run businesses before. And Wendy and I were really young and had 0 business experience. And Wendy just knew she wanted to focus on event management. She had been director of marketing at a healthcare company, but she really loved events and really was great at it, wanted to focus on that. And I just wanted to keep doing what I was doing, but have more control. And this guy that had been my boss, I thought was like a mentor and a boss and a friend. It didn't really work out that way. Wendy and I found a few months in, he wasn't really what we thought, and being partners with him wasn't really what we had bargained for, and he ended up leaving the country. And Wendy and I had great clients right out of the gate. Some of my old clients followed me, some pretty big and important clients that I had relationships with, and we had a couple of staff. And so we just sort of looked at each other and we said, all right, we'll figure this out. We'll figure it out. And if we don't, we'll get jobs. But like, we're pretty scrappy, and we use the word scrappy all the time. So we just like figured it out. We found a really good accountant. We found a really good attorney. We found a really good IT person. We found the people that knew the things that we didn't know to help us with those types of things. And then we knew how to do like the work. And we just started doing it. And Wendy figured out how to like pay the people whose bills hadn't been paid, and like how to do those things, and blinked an eye, and now it's 28 years later. So we, the two of us started off in a shared office space with 2 desks pushed together facing each other. And neither one of us had kids yet. We were really young. I was married, and still am, but she was not yet married. So like, we would work all day, and then we'd go out after work and keep talking about work. And we were different spaces in our lives too, which is why I always say that, when you start a business, you need to think about if that's going to work for you for all the other stages that you end up going through. So knock on wood, I'm knocking. I'm a pretty superstitious person. We're still here, and we have a great partnership, and we've been able to manage, the parts of our lives that have happened alongside the parts of our business.
When did you know, Sandy, that like this was like a thing? Yes, you had your clientele and people followed you, but like, what was a milestone or a proudest moment where you sat back, like in the debrief or before the debrief or in the green room after the event, everybody's gone, client comes, shakes your hand and says, great job. Like, what was the event? When was it? And is there one time that resonates in your mind that happened, either you and Wendy or for you?
Yeah.
What was that milestone?
I mean, there's so many things. So the way that we run our business is that we've got about 40 people. I oversee the public relations part of the business, and Wendy oversees the event management. And we have a lot of clients like Embrace Boston that we work with on all of it. But we also have most and many clients that are either event only or public relations only. So I've been really blessed to work on some amazing clients that like hit it big. We did an event with Richard Branson once. Virgin acquired one of our clients, and we did this like whole thing in Boston and did media with him. And like, that was pretty cool as a young person, right? Richard Branson, coming and being able to put him in media interviews. And we got Stacy's pita chips on the map. That was a really, really proud thing. And Stacy became one of my best friends for life, and our families are close. So like, there's more than just the result of the thing happening. It's like what it also means for you in your life.
Yes.
And the people that become important to you. So I've been super blessed, but I'll say really, I mean, I love all my clients equally, like my children. But it's
like
very,
you sound like the Davis system now. I always ask Aaron and Anthony, who's your favorite client, me or Ayana? Love them all.
Love them all. Love them all. And I'm so proud to have worked on so many things that have been really important for people, that have changed people's lives and been really important to the world. But I will say there really was nothing like work. So working on the unveiling of the Embrace Monument, because first of all, Amari and I have been friends for like 15 years. We've worked together for a really long time. And so he's a friend. And so being able to support and work with a friend and then all the other amazing people over there is one thing. But that was a client and is a client where our event management team was doing their thing. Our PR team was doing our thing. And we were doing it all together, and there were so many eyeballs on it. And there's only one time in your career when you're going to have the responsibility to launch a monument to two civil rights icons that will be on the Boston Common forever and ever and ever, long after we're here. I mean, that just doesn't happen every day, right? So it was an amazing responsibility to be entrusted with, and it was amazing feeling to see all my team. Wendy was, we didn't know what the weather was going to be. It was January. Wendy got us all these like storm jackets that had our logos on them. And at first I was like, I'm never going to wear that thing. And then like, but I love my jacket now. I wear it all the time. And like seeing all my castle people, like all over the place, like just hustling, doing their thing, getting it done, trying to make sure that everything was smooth or everything seemed smooth to everybody that was participating. Like that was just really a thing. Like this will be here forever.
Yeah.
And, and we worked on it for a really, really, really long time leading up to it. It wasn't just like, we planned it a month out. So I think that has to stand out just because of the significance and the perpetuity of what that represents.
Absolutely. That's a major milestone, but I'm sure it was well before that you knew that like Castle was not your typical average comms firm, with the event management side as well. But I know that stands out as a milestone and being a part of it. And I got to attest, I mean, we were a little bit behind the scenes, but even behind the scenes, like y'all ran a pretty, I was going to say tight, but that indicates some things, but smooth ship. But no, you do have to run a tight, smooth ship. All the eyes were on it. Now,
yeah.
This is just James and Sandy. One of the things that you do is handle crisis and comms, and I'll just say that it was interesting for everything that what you said and gave context about that wonderful thing. One of the other things that you do is advise when there may be negative media or negative press. In general, I won't ask a question. I'll just say and note that this is one of the things that Sandy does. Is advise what Castle does is advise, because I just thought about when you talked about that wonderful day, and unfortunately some other stuff, came in the back of my mind. But I also want to highlight what Castle does is advise on things like that. But it was a beautiful day, and it's a beautiful rendition dedicated, as you said, to civil right icons. And I went down recently and I got a chance. Well, I'm not gonna lie, it was my first time. It was like my third time. I got to stand in the middle. Remember when we went to Gala and they said that you would be able to stand in the middle, and it's like, but that is an example of, like, they was handling from soup to nuts, from publicity, marketing, event. I don't know if he was involved in some of the trip planning when we had to go and see it and all this other stuff. And like, was there a news outlet that wanted to cover it while it was coming across? So I say this because I just wanted to give people a purview, not just in your story, but what a comms firm does, so they have an idea of what you're handling. That's
a perfect example of everything we do. We did and do still for that client. We do the gala too. Which
sneaker
ball, which is so much fun. And it did win Best in Boston, Best Gala this year.
It really did. The list just came out. Okay, then.
Yeah. So, like, we like to have fun, but we like, we're behind the scenes. I mean, we really are mostly, behind the scenes, and we're doing our thing, and we're putting our clients, front and center. And like you and I talked many times, and, folks that we work with have come on and chatted with you, and you've come to their events and emceed and done all kinds of things, and when you called and invited me to come on, I was like, me or one of my clients? Because I love chatting with you, but normally we like to be present, but we tend to be more present behind the scenes.
Yeah. And it is evident and knowing you are like low key, behind the scenes, but this is such a public facing position. In that vein, it is behind the scenes. And Sandy, being a woman in business, being any marginalized, a part of any marginalized in the business world, is dominated typically by men. How do you handle, and is this particular industry dominated by men? And then how do you, I don't know if I should ask this, because if you know Sandy, how do you handle when that dynamic presents itself?
It is a very female dominated industry, actually. PR, event management, totally event management is really female dominated. PR is both, but like if you went into any PR firm in the city or anywhere, you probably would see, it might not be owned by a woman, but you'd see a lot of women working there. We have a very diverse team. We have a very diverse team. We don't show up and we're all women. We don't show up and we're all one race or one ethnicity or one religion or one anything.
Or one age range. You got a myriad of
one age range. I bring the curve way up now, but yeah, we really have probably more men in our firm than most of the folks that do the same thing we do around here. But I would say a lot of our clients are men and women. I always had a lot of guy friends growing up, and even in college, like a couple of my roommates were guys. So I guess the dynamic of like when it's a guy or when it's a woman, like who's the client or who's the colleague, like that doesn't really bother me. You know this, right? Every woman doesn't lift up every other woman.
It's Sandy.
So like, it doesn't matter if it's a guy. It can be a guy that says your name when you're not in the room, or a woman who says your name when you're not in the room. But it doesn't really matter. It's about the person. To me, it's about the person and who my friends are and who has my back and whose back I have, and who you want to do really good work for and want to be a partner. Our why statement at Castle is to use our relationships to create personal and professional success for our clients, colleagues, community, and company. And that really sums it up. It's like, it really is about the relationships and the people. So I don't care what.
Hold on. I'm about to look at your logo because you said clients, company, and community. And isn't there like, let me look at this.
And colleagues.
I'm about to look at the logo because isn't there like 3 sort of C's in the construct of, you got the little orange thing with, I just thought about that.
The orange C. Yeah, we like the color orange around here. And orange and red can actually look very nice together, Jimmy. I just want to say.
I mean, that makes fire. The two major
Yep.
colors in fire.
That is fire.
Orange and red. So let's leave it there. I got to go back and look at the logo because just the 3 C's. I don't know if that was intentional. I'm in my memory seeing the orange. I don't know if there's another C.
Yeah, it's sort of like yeah. But those things are really important to us. But at the heart of that is the relationship piece, right? It's how we develop and nurture and leverage authentically our relationships. We are not transactional. And I think, when you ask the question, like, when did I know it was special or when did I know Castle? Like, when you see an Instagram, I was today years old when I found out whatever. I think I was today years old because every day, like when you're working this hard and you're just in it, you don't often stop and go like, this is cool. Like, this is amazing. But then there's moments we do every year. We sort of like talk to our team about the year in review. The COVID year was the year I realized it, when I realized how we got through it and all the things that we pulled together to do, all of us. And like, that was a year that I realized it was something special and that we had learned from being in business a long time, what to do and what not to do. But it's almost in the business that I'm in, when you're working with clients every day on retainer, especially for PR, it's sort of like, what are we doing for them today? What are we doing for them tomorrow? There's not a lot of stopping and going like, that happened. Amazing. Yeah. But I think when I realize it is just when I'm somewhere like at an event, or like last night I co-hosted an event for the governor. Fundraiser.
On the mic?
Yeah, I was a co-host. Well, there were 5 of us that, it means that we're raising the money, right? And so, but like now when I'm in those rooms, I'm comfortable and I'm with people that I like to be with.
Yeah.
Like the people that show up and that I show up for, there's alignment, there's respect, there's community. And so I think, I don't know when it happened that I flipped the switch from like dreading to go to things and dreading to be places and feeling nervous and insecure and imposter syndrome and all that, to like really actually loving it, because I think the city has changed in the 28 years so much, right? We have a woman mayor, we have a woman governor, lieutenant governor, AG, like all up and down, right? And how everyone is different now. And so I'll just say, Wendy, in the 28 years that we've been in business, there were lots of times earlier on where like a competitor would win a client and we wouldn't, or they'd get an award, some recognition, and I'd be like, why isn't that us? Like, I'm so mad. And Wendy would say, because that's not who we are. We are who we are. And I think we've never changed, but maybe the city and region has changed around us as we've grown as a company, and those things have been hopefully kind of symbiotic.
I hear from you values. Folks can come with an offer and do things and whatnot, but if it doesn't align with your values, you and Wendy would be like, check look good, but because
we don't. There's definitely stuff we say no to. Yeah.
Absolutely. I wanted to go back a little bit, just a couple of more questions for you. I want to get in mission to motion. And even in there, if you want to, but you've said relationships a few times, one with your clients and then one, a sisterhood. What advice would you give to a young or just a woman entrepreneur around relationships, not so much just with clients, but a sisterhood to build off of? Who's your accountant? Or I went through this when I started. What would you say to sort of the importance of creating that space? And also there's some accountability there.
Yeah, I'll tell you, when we started Castle, shortly before we started, Center for Women in Enterprise had opened, and that's an organization at cweonline.org that helps women start and grow businesses. And I was deeply, deeply involved in that for a long time. I was on the board. I chaired and co-chaired all kinds of things there. And it's an amazing organization. I've sent more people to that than I could even count, than our hairs on my head. I mean, just every time when I hear a woman who's, trying to start something, they have so many resources. So I think, first of all, knowing that there's resources out there is really important, but being honest, like I told you, I tell women when they're starting thank you for putting their website up. I do tell women when they're starting, like, think about your life. Like, you need to have a support system. You do, right? If you're going to have any, I want a personal life. My staff want a personal life, right? I don't want to just like be a worker bee and a drone. And so like, there's going to be times in my life when, you know, all of us, like your kid gets sick, or you want to go to a hockey game, or you want to, you know, you have to deal with elder care issues. I've lost both my parents and my brother in a relatively short amount of time a few years ago. Like I had to take a step out of the office for a little bit, right? And just step out. And I had never done that before. Even when I had my kids, I hadn't like totally unplugged the way I did when those things happened. And you have to trust. You got to trust. You have to have people you can trust. Yeah. And it was a good lesson. Like no one's unreplaceable, irreplaceable. When that happened, when my brother passed away in the middle of all the things I just shared with you happening, that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. Yeah. And I was like, whoa, I got to take some time. And guess what? Like nobody, I mean, maybe people missed me sometime here or there, but like nothing, we're still here. Right. Yep. And so that couldn't have happened if we hadn't built trust and relationships and a strong team and people that could appreciate that. Like if I was, you know, plucked out of the picture for 5 or 6 weeks, then, you know, things could still happen. So I think you have to build trust. You have to be transparent with people. Platitudes don't work. Like give them the real truth. You know, yep. I was giving some advice to 2 women who were starting a firm. And I said, just think about how you're going to be able to rely on each other. Like you're going to have each other's back. Like one of you is going to have like, you know, something happen with your parents. The other one's going to have to carry the water. Like you just know that life is going to happen to you. And I know I've said that like 3 times in this conversation, but you can't separate yourself out. You're all just one person. So when life happens to you while you have work, you got to deal with it. So we have to be there for each other and tell each other like the hard truths. And also like, it's okay to fail. It's okay to like not be perfect sometimes. I wanted my hair to look better than this today. So like,
Sandy,
like what? I got to stick it in a clip. I'm not quite ready. And it's taken me 2 hours to get here. Like it doesn't all go the way you want. So
that's real. As much as we joked about it, I'm going to be very honest and transparent with you. Something like, so this morning I was setting up and the mixer was next to the cup of coffee. I moved the mixer and the coffee spilled. Oops. First thing I thought was, oh my God, mixer's going da 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 da. Little thing. But I think, you know, we're not in a mental health session today, but you talked about the straw that broke the camel's back. What I just heard from you was have spaces that you can trust. Sometimes be able, when life's, you've said it a few times, I'm going to say it again. When life is lifing, that you can have enough trust to say, hey, I need to take a break. The other thing I heard was if we are not proactive in creating those spaces of trust, our mental health and just social emotional gets interesting. And one little thing about like 2-hour traffic or having to wear a clip or spilling coffee, I know for me, I was about 2 seconds away of just going, just a little something. But what I realized was it was the straw to which you referred, because Sandy, you helping me get an analogy right now. It's the straw that was added to all the other stuff that the camel has been carrying. That's what that means, you know. And so I heard from you there, pay attention to the little things as well, but then also in the bigger, trusting relationships, circles of accountability. And the number one thing that stood out was you got to trust yourself to fail. Well, can you just a little, I want to hear a little bit about Mission to Motion. I'm sure that some about what we're talking about is in that, but do with me a little bit of that. And then I got one other question to ask, and then I'm going to let you go because knowing you probably got 11 o'clock.
Okay. So you want me to start with Mission to Motion?
Yeah. What is Mission? So because,
okay. I'll try to be as speedy as possible. I get accused of talking too fast sometimes, but so I shared my background with you. I didn't grow up with a family that had, you know, connections or relationships, money, anything. And I always had convictions. I always had things I cared about in the world, but I never, ever would have thought of myself as a person that would be able to do anything about them, have influence, talk about them, whatever. And so one of the things that did strike me a few years ago was the fact that also there's a lot of people who we need their voice and we need them to lean into the things they care about. And they also might not know that their voice and their influence can have impact. So we got to tell them. And so if someone had told me 28 years ago when we started the business, or even before that, like, lean in, like, I'm Jewish. I really talk a lot about anti-Semitism because that's the thing that hurts me. Wasn't something I talked about a lot until a year ago, but like, I talk about a lot of things. I talk about equity. I talk about women's reproductive health. I talk about mental health. There's a lot of specific health issues I care about. I mean, on how people, food insecurity, like, there's so many things, like gender equity. There's so many things I care about. And I never would have thought that I could talk about those things in spaces or have people listen to me or, have that influence. So I thought a few years ago, how do we help young people realize that they can have a path to having influence and speaking their truths and leaning in and whatever their mission is? Like, everyone doesn't have the same thing they care about. And also everyone doesn't have the same path to how they get to influence, right? It could be just because it's part of your job. That's perfectly fine. But it could be because it's nothing to do with your job and you do something on the weekends, or it could be all rolled into one or something else. So I just kind of had this idea, and it's called Mission to Motion because it's taking your mission and creating forward motion for our community, whatever community means to you.
Yep.
And so I started talking to friends about it, like folks, like folks that we've talked about and other folks, like, what do you think about this? And literally, like, every person that I mentioned it to were like, I love that. I love that. How can I help? How can I get involved? So I started doing with the Greater Boston Chamber, Fierce Urgency of Now, a panel. And the first one was with Robert Lewis Jr. and Shirley Long moderated it, Asia May from Moonshine 152. And a few of us got on and we did it, and we did this panel, and it was great. Although it was virtual because it was COVID. And then people really liked it. A young man that I'd never met, reached out to me after and asked, if we could get together so often and I could be a mentor to him. And I was like, oh, a guy's reaching out to me. That's weird. Usually it's women, but I met so many amazing people through it. Anyway, I've now built an advisory board. WGBH has sponsored things. I've had the EOS Foundation pay for support of some of the nonprofits that are involved in it. And so we've done a series of conversations with folks to talk about how they found what their mission is. Again, a lot of people, Michael Bobbitt, Willie Bodrick, Andrew Silver, a lot of folks, Amari's been on, so many people. It's been amazing. And so Che Anderson, I don't know if you know Che, but he's actually coming over today, and we're going to film a little video later to talk about his mission and passion. And so I have big ideas for what I want to do with it. It really aligns with our work, first of all, right? Yeah. The folks that are involved are folks that I interact with all the time anyway. And caring about what you do and putting your mission forward is really at the heart of whatever our clients are, whether they're for-profit, energy companies, or whether they're a nonprofit, social service organization. And so I have big plans for it that more to come. Right now, it's a series of conversations and examples that folks can learn from so that they can learn how to be change makers. That's what it is.
I wanted to let folks know to go get more information about it or to follow when you're having an event. That particular link is hyperlinked in the comments, and so you can go directly there. I'm sure there's a listserv. You can sign up and be informed when Sandy is doing things. I've heard about the Fierce Urgency of Now Festival. Had an opportunity, I think, to do something collaboration with the New England Aquarium. I think it was last year or something that happened a couple of years ago. The other link I wanted to let folks know about is it did not go beyond me that you shared a resource that was a Center for Women's Empowerment. I'm just trying to get it back.
Center for Women and Enterprise.
An enterprise. Yeah. So that is hyperlinked down below as well, everyone. And so you can click the hyperlink and go right there and get more information. Sandy, I know I got to get ready to, Flavio's in the building. Yeah, it was at the aquarium.
The aquarium.
Do you know who
we
he
love
is?
the aquarium.
Do you know who Flavio is? If you see him, you may. Sandy, this is a photographer that if he's not in your portfolio, he needs to be.
Flavio, I need to get your info.
I will make sure I can. Flavio,
okay, please.
So, well, anyway, I have some offline stuff, Sandy. When we sit again, I'll tell you. Cool. There's a couple of shoots that he did. He's amazing. My point I was going with the mission piece was, and a few other things and Sandy, I had a sense since we've talked about your passion and commitment. But again, today, to be able to take to kind of remove the veil a little bit and get to know even more who Sandy is and how who Sandy is now correlating with her work there at Castle with you and Wendy, and to hear the story, it is remarkable. And one of the reasons why I wanted you to come on, because your story is and I didn't even know the details. Your story is very unique. And I want to make sure that as we're highlighting women, small business, women-owned small business.
Women-owned small businesses. Yeah.
Yes. I wanted people to see a myriad of different women that at different 28 years. Naisha's only been in for 2 years. Nicole, I think, has been in for about 5. And so so an indicator for me when it's a good interview is when I'm tired after.
All right. Are you tired? Yeah. Time for more coffee. Because you spilled your coffee, so you need a new one anyway.
I did go get the second cup, but because I put the system together, it's sitting over there. So that's why you didn't see me sip today. But no, Sandy, I know that there's more coming from you. I know there's some things coming down the pipe that you're working on that are huge. One of them I'm a part of. And thank you for a lot of the connections that you've made for the Java with Jimmy platform. Also making connections to bring, matter of fact, I looked in the you know how they quarantine messages. I think there's a message in there from Brittany.
Okay. I'll pick it out and ask. Okay.
But no, thank you for all the opportunities, Sandy, and thank you for being in. A lot of us are watching you and what Castle does, and so we appreciate the example that you all raise around event production, around. And it's interesting because you're in the background. I don't know, any particular crisis advisement that you've made because you're in the background, but just for that and the messaging, it is really remarkable to hear your story. The last question I wanted to ask is, what advice would you give? I would say you've referred to being a mom a couple of times. You've referred to being a caregiver of your parents. You referred to holding down the business. And we've talked about it a little bit, but I want to be intentional and ask, just generally in life, what would you say to women if you had the ability to say one thing to them that you knew they would walk away with and it would impact them for the rest of their life? What would you say?
I think the easiest person to be is yourself. So authenticity, I had so much career advice early on where people told me how to present, told me how to show up, told me what to do and not do. And it always felt really uncomfortable. And when I did those things, I wasn't successful. So I think, trusting yourself, trusting your authentic self, and putting your best foot forward and being kind to yourself, giving yourself space to fail, to rest, to recharge, and bringing other people along with you is really important. I guess it all goes back to relationships. I cherish my relationships, and they're what make me love what I do 28 years in.
You just did a whole synopsis of every nugget that you dropped today. So we'll make sure we cut that up and put that out there, because that was a real synopsis of everything that you said today, along with sharing your story. And so as Pastor Marion said a few minutes ago, thank you for sharing your wisdom. And then she also said, thank you for demonstrating what perseverance looks like.
Thank you. You got to be resourceful, right? resourcefulness and perseverance is everything, because you don't know what life's going to throw at you. So you just got to keep going.
Yes, ma'am.
So thank you. I appreciate you. And I want to thank you for all the people that you lift up and that you share with your audience. And you're a really special person and a special friend. And so thank you for giving me the time to spend with you today and talk to folks. And yeah, I just adore you.
Thank you and I adore you too. And thank you for not saying no. Because I was like, Sandy's going to be like, well, no, but actually I got this other story. But no, thank you for coming, and thank you for the step that you've made in being more transparent and being that example. I got a feeling pretty soon somebody from Castle is going to come to you and say, all right, Sandy, you about to be your own client and go off speaking and whatnot.
I don't know. We'll see.
Sandy, thank you. Go ready to get into that.
Thanks, Jimmy. All right.
Yeah, thanks for everything, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. All right. Thanks for the time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Listen, folks, I hope you were inspired by Sandy's story and what she shared. It again, seeing folks in community and talking with them and breaking bread and having drinks is one thing, but when they come in here, you just get to learn a lot more. So, folks, we're going to get ready to wrap up for today. UCB, you get an hour for your points today. And Flavio, thanks for the shout out, brother. I've worked with Castle Group on a few times. I don't know if we've had direct contact before, Sandy, but I love working with your people. Oh, okay. So you did, because I was like, if they don't know who Flavio is, then no. But reconnect with whoever you book with before and tell them, hey, Sandy just said she wanted to connect, and well, I'll do the direct connection. But appreciate you, brother. Flavio is one of Boston's top. He just did a shoot with Auntie Rose of Rosemark and Aisha and Shirley and oh God, I forgot their brother's name. And that photo shoot is fire. And Flavio, we need to bring you on one day and talk politics, because we were going at it last night on social media. I'll just say this based on what I just said. The next week is going to be very, very interesting. First thing is, for those of you that through your engagement of observing a lot of the nastiness and the things that's going on in politics right now, take the liberty and log off. Don't watch. Don't terrorize yourself. I know for some, I'm doing a private event on election night. Oh, let me just pause here. For the first time since 2020. And I'm a little ripped about it. We're not going to do our traditional election night show. I'll talk more about that later. But as we are a week out from the election, associated with a private event on election night, and someone asked and said, will there be a clinician there? And I'm like, wait, what does that mean? That you think, that, we're going to need a clinician because of, first of all, we're not going to get the results on November 5th. Let's just keep that 100. All of this to say that protect your peace, protect yourselves. Things are over the next week going to be very interesting on social media, in legacy mainstream media. You don't know what 2020, they did a standout for Trump right in the middle of Dorchester. You don't know what you're going to see and what you're going to hear. And consume wisely. I'll also deviate and say that pay attention to the ballot questions locally here in Massachusetts and what they mean. I put a schematic together in Excel and probably going to morph that into infographics. So you can get the information from the Secretary of State's page, but social media sometimes is where people get their info. We are looking at doing a political discussion on Monday evening, November 4th. I was going to do a ballot show on November 3rd, but someone said to me, I veto that time frame. Football, Sunday night at 7, just for this topic. might be better on Monday, the night before Election Day. So we'll keep you abreast about that. But we got on this because I was talking about Flavio, and we were exchanging some messages yesterday on social media in reference to we were watching CNN, and a very derogatory statement was made. And I know derogatory statements have been made on both sides, but I saw that with my own eyes and my own ears, and in real time was like, wait, what? And so we were exchanging about that, and that's how I got on this political subject. All right, that's it for me today. It is 10:58. You all go and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and we will see you tomorrow morning at the same time at 10 a.m. Tomorrow morning, I have the opportunity, along with Dr. Frenny Palaco Walters, some other folks are coming in, and we're going to talk about breast cancer tomorrow with ABCD Health Services and representatives from Cobden Square Health Center. So come in. I will say that this month we've covered breast cancer awareness, small women-owned small businesses. Why can't I say that? And we also, it was women businesses, cancer, and there was another awareness that we covered earlier this month. But that's what we do, is bring the information and awareness to you, so you can take advantage of the resources and services and just learn more and also be encouraged. Today, Sandy's story was very remarkable. And so, Sandy, once again, we thank you for joining us. That's it for me, folks. I am off of here, and we'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Have a great day, everybody. And we will talk to you in the morning at 10.